Today I plan on painting the hood, also this front bumper piece that is black. I'm gonna go ahead and redo this. I had that one crack right here that I epoxied, and then I just drilled some holes in this. I'm gonna probably zip tie this together to close that gap a little bit. You're not gonna see that because it's on the back side anyways, but there are quite a few scratches if you do look up close to this, and it looks a little bit rough. So I'm just gonna go over that too as well, since I'm already painting the hood black. Give it a nice clear shine, just give it a fresh paint job. I'm probably actually going to end up rewrapping this in like a carbon fiber wrap. That's actually the plan that I'm going to be doing with the hood, but in order for me to do that wrap, I need to lay down some paint, and I'll do a clear coat over it too to give that wrap something to stick to. The hood is prepped, it just needs to be cleaned and wiped down. This, I'm just going to go ahead, take a Scotch-Brite pad, go over it really quickly, and clean this area up, take off this shine, and then I'm also going to add a little bit of Bondo just to fill in this area right here and fix any high or low spots so that this will be a little bit more smoothed out. Quick little update now that I am in the paint booth. So I have the hood in here. I have it hung up just from the ceiling right now. This is so I can get access to painting both sides of it. So everything is prepped up. I put Bondo on all the spots. I had to touch up some of these edges a little bit more, all the way around to fill some of those holes. I have the brackets from another hood that I took off of that vehicle, and I'm going to be using on this car. So these are also going to get painted black. I just scuffed these down with that Scotch-Brite pad that I was using to scuff a number of other things down. Also, I have another latch that I stole off of another hood that is good. So I have that on here that I'm also going to be painting as well. I do need to tape off this little grill mesh piece here, both the front and the back side, because I don't want that getting painted. I already cleaned this off with some of the surface cleaner here. I just used a nice microfiber towel in that and wiped everything down, get all the dust and debris off of it. I'm still gonna go over this with a tack cloth because it looks like there's still a little bit of some debris on it. And then I also have this front grill piece right here. So here was the crack, and I Bondoed it. It doesn't have to be perfect because I'm probably going to end up wrapping this piece too along with this piece. I just need to go ahead and shoot some paint down on these. This one I'm not going to do any primer on. I just need base coat on this one. However, the hood we are going to be shooting with primer first. So I have some 2K primer that I'm going to show you here real quick. I'm going to go ahead, mix that up. Tack cloth this off first, then I will go ahead and start shooting this hood, and once that primer's on there, we'll see what it looks like, see if there's any other imperfections or anything that I need to touch up. So I wiped all these off again. Now I'm just going to take that lint rag that I got and just go over this whole thing, and this will take off any dust or any other small particles that you can't see or that your other towel won't get off. This will take off. So this is going to be the last step that I do, is going over all these panels. We're going to go ahead and hook our gun up to this real quick, see what our pressure is. So we want, before I go ahead and throw on our primer here and mix that up and attach that, we're just going to test our pressure. The pressure gets tested, or how to check it, is when you pull this trigger down all the way. So when you pull that trigger down, you'll notice that the pressure goes way down on the actual gauge right here. So there's a gauge on the gun, and then I also do have an additional gauge up there on the wall. So you can adjust it from either one. So I'm just gonna go ahead and squeeze this. I'm looking for 22 PSI roughly. It's a little bit high, so I'm just gonna go ahead and bump it down with just the turns right here and see if I can get that down a little bit, and then that'll be good for my pressure. This is the primer that I'm using right here, the Finish one, P410, and this is the hardener that comes with it. I was just looking at the ratio, which this ripped off the bottle, but it does say on here it is a 4-to-1 ratio. So I will be doing 4 times the amount of this to 1 times the amount of this. I'm gonna go ahead and just mix that up in this cup here. So I'm mixing up my primer and my reducer right now. I went ahead, I am at the 8-ounce line. So since it's a 4-to-1 ratio, that means we're gonna do 1 part of the hardener. So that's gonna be 2 ounces. So we're gonna have 10 ounces total in this little cup, and then we'll go ahead, throw our cap on, and start spraying here in just a moment. Just gonna go ahead, take a second, and stir this up real good. Make sure everything is nice and mixed before we throw this in the gun here. Get this set up the way we want it to. We are in the booth. I have this. One thing we're gonna do before we go ahead and start spraying our hood with this primer is I just have this test sheet up right here. I'm just taking this, and you'll have to make fine-tune adjustments on both this lower one right here and also this upper one. So this upper one on the very top, this is for your fan spread. This is how wide your actual spray is gonna go. And then this one on the bottom right here, this is what controls how much fluid actually comes out. So I have this top one all the way set about loose. You want to turn this to the left as many times as you can, and then go ahead and crank it to the right, maybe like half a turn or so. And then this one, this is also fairly loose too as well. So we're just gonna go ahead and spray this wall real quick and kind of see what it does. So as you can see, there's hardly any fluid on here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and unscrew my fluid one a little bit more and see if we can get a little bit more fluid out on this next run here. So already a little bit better. I still think we could use a little bit more, so we'll loosen it a tiny bit more. I think we're gonna go ahead and start shooting our part now. This hood is now primed. What I'm gonna do right now before I go ahead and actually apply my base coat to it is I let this dry overnight. It's had about 12 hours or so to dry. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna sand this. I'm gonna sand it with a 600 grit, and I'm gonna wet sand it. And that's just to kind of take off some of these imperfections on here. Looks like there's a couple spots where there's some stuff that got dried onto it. So this will just ensure that we get a nice smooth surface. So I have the water bucket out right here. I have some 600 grit, and I'm just gonna put it on the Scotch-Brite pad, so that way it can just move around edges and stuff a little bit better. All right, everything is sanded down on this hood. We went over it one time, smoothed out quite a few imperfections that there were on this. So I'm just gonna go ahead and wipe this off with a nice microfiber towel, clean it up, and then I'm gonna inspect it, see if there's any more imperfections that need to get worked out with that 600 grit, and if there is, we'll go ahead and do it again. I'm not gonna worry about doing the backside on this because you're not really ever gonna see it, so I'm not gonna smooth that out or anything. There's no reason for me to waste my time on that. I have both of my panels in here that I'm ready to actually apply some base coat onto. Hood is back in here. I just need to go ahead, clean these up with some surface cleaner, throw a tack rag on both of them, make sure that they are all nice and clean and ready to go. And then we're going to be mixing up our base coat, which this is the black in color base coat that we're doing. I'll show you what that's going to look like here in just a second. Here is the paint that we're going to be using for today. It's just the black. It's a Chrysler paint color. The code is PX8. So it's just a simple black paint, and this one is ready to use, so that means I don't need to add any reducer. Since I'm doing both the hood and the other panel, I'm going to be using just a fair amount. 2 coats should be enough. All right, we got our paint. I just poured it directly into this cup here. We'll go ahead, pop our lid on, tighten this down. I already checked the pressure on this. The pressure is where I want it when I squeeze the gun. I'll have to go ahead and fine tune some of these adjustments when I get in the booth. Now we're gonna be mixing up our clear coat. So we'll be using this. I have this, and then I have my medium hardener from the same brand. I'm just gonna go ahead, fill this cup pretty much all the way up. I'm gonna be doing probably 3 coats, 2 to 3 coats of clear coat, depending on the coverage of it. So this will easily get used up, and I'm gonna need to make more after that. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill this up. The ratio is, if I can show you on the back, right here. So 4 parts to 1. So 4 parts of this, 1 part this. So I'll probably do maybe 10 ounces or so of this, and then 2.5 ounces of this would be the correct ratio. Before we go ahead and clear coat, I'm just going to show you what I'm working with right now. Everything is covered. I have roughly 2 coats on this, and everything seems to be decently covered on the front side. The back side I only did 1 coat on, and then I ran out of paint, but it seems to be just fine. Moving on to the other panel over here, do have a couple imperfections kind of right in here. Not the end of the world, but we're still gonna continue on with this and finish this part up too as well. It's the next day. This is now dry. I also have this other part here too, which is dry. There's a couple imperfections that you can see. Nothing too major though. So I'm just gonna need to go ahead and wet sand it, and then I'll buff it out with my buffer. The new hood is on the car. It's just loosely bolted in. Couple things that I've noticed. One is that you'll see I have a hood prop right here for it. So the factory hood prop that goes right into here, this part is not cut out on this because nothing is cut out on this hood. That's just the way that these come. So that will need to get cut out if I do plan on using that, which I'd like to, just to have it. Another thing, looking at this, is the windshield wiper sprayers. So this is the factory piece right here, and if I bring this up and try to put this into the two holes where the slots are, this hood, wherever these are set up, they're spaced out further than what this is. So basically what I'll need to do or figure out is how to extend this middle piece right here so I can separate these two a little bit further. They just don't reach. It latches just fine. I've had no issues with the latch. It latches up. Did it right on the first try. It's not aligned on or anything like that yet, so I'm gonna need to take it off anyways in order to cut that little piece off for the hood strut.